Today I'm back in South Wales with the Property X team, and we are all here to revisit a property that we've recently sourced for a client which is currently undergoing a refurbishment. But today I want to talk to you about something different. I want to talk to you about what makes a great BRR property deal or property investment, and why we chose South Wales as the area to focus on for investment. So coming in the front door, we're going to keep this front door, UPVC, kind of composite door, just needs a really good clean basically. So that's staying, everything's been skimmed, the first 6 electrics is almost done, although the consumer unit still needs to be fitted and some of the old pipework still needs to be removed and taken away. This room here, sitting room, kind of like a front to back room with obviously 2 windows, making it really nice and bright. Again, we're kind of like midway through the refurb at this point. Lots of skimming and plastering has happened. This room nicely flows into the back of the house, which is this kind of open plan kitchen utility area. So having a kitchen across here, you've got this kind of nice bay area. This is quite unique. Don't always get this kind of thing. So someone could have a table here. At the back of the house, going to have this utility area where it's going to be a worktop with space for washing machine, dryer, and then you've got the bathroom neatly tucked away in the corner here as well, which is just going to be a small 3-piece suite. But let's head upstairs. So heading upstairs, and this is where the house is obviously now being converted into 3 bedrooms. So at the front here, we've got the smallest room, this kind of box room, which is going to be ideal for realistically a kind of study, office, stroke, maybe a kid's room, a nursery. This other room is going to be the master bedroom. Obviously this used to be the full room, but it's still very much a good sized double bedroom. And last but not least, we have the 3rd bedroom. And as you can see, in all of these rooms, everything's just starting to come together. There isn't a huge amount more to be done here, other than obviously adding the heating, so the radiators, painting the walls and the skirting, and finishing off kind of that second fix of electrics and plumbing. Other than that, this is the house, this is the layout. Now let's talk about what makes a great BRR. So as mentioned, this house is new into the refurbishment. Okay, so there's still plenty left to go with this refurbishment. We're actually standing in what was a large bedroom and is now being converted into 2 bedrooms, which we'll talk about in a minute. But this property was bought for £72,000. The refurb is coming in at roughly around £36,500, with an end value of this property being at the kind of top end at about 135, or if you get a mean valuer on the day, maybe 125 to 130. But great house. What do you think, Dan, in terms of, today we're focusing on what makes a really good BRR?
Yeah, I think when we originally sourced this house, what really stood out was the fact that it was originally a 2-bed, but with space to make it into a 3-bed. So you immediately got the opportunity to add value there. The portions are really good as well. So as we go downstairs, you'll see living room is good size, kitchen's a good size. You've got space for the bathroom at the back. And then also the added benefit of the garden, which is right next to the kitchen. So a small family with kids can let the kids play outside. It's not going to be an issue. They can play safely, all that sort of stuff, which is nice. It's a typical 3-bed terrace now, so this layout is very typical for the valleys now that it's been adjusted and the walls have been added. So it'll be snapped up hopefully when it's on the rental market. Yeah,
I completely agree. I think what some people can do is they're so focused on trying to find cheap properties, they can find really small properties. So what we try to do when we're looking at these BRRs is look in these good rows of terrace houses, trying to find that opportunity within a 2-bed property where it's of decent square meters like this, isn't it?
Yeah.
To then add the value. So I'm really impressed with so far what's been done at the property. So let's take a wander through to the other room and discuss some of the other benefits.
Yep, nice.
Whilst we're at it, actually we could talk about what's been done here really, couldn't we?
Yeah, so the original layout, which we did film a video on, so you could have a look at that. We might overlay something, but essentially the wall went straight across and then across towards the staircase like that. So it was just one big room, one box room. Actually, originally there was talk about whether we just keep the wall there and then make a little indent into this room, But in the way it's been done, taking a little bit section out of that one, the main bedroom is now this room, which I think it makes sense. This is the way it should be.
Yes.
As a layout. This will be the master for mum and dad. Then you've got a small box room over there, which could present itself as an office or something.
Yep.
And you've got kids' room on the back there.
Actually, having just been in there, still a really good sized room.
Yeah.
Even though it's now missing that part.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. But the indent allows for like the perfect space for a bed to go in, and when we go in there, we'll have a look at that. But everything now makes sense and is good proportion. So yeah, well done.
Yeah, nice. So yeah, standing in the room we just mentioned, where you can see the indent now. So yeah, again, decent sized room for someone to either have as a second bedroom or as a study. Now again, whilst we're here, I wanted to talk about pricing. Okay? And I want to talk about not just sourcing methodology, so like what we're trying to source for clients and what they're after, but also your own portfolio, because you're building that up at the moment as well. When you're looking at properties, why is it that we are and you are going for properties that have got maybe an end value of 130, 140, 150 and not the properties that are going to be worth 90 or 100k at the end?
Yeah, so personally for me, when I'm looking for myself and we're looking for clients, I try to look for houses that are of a certain size, and with that comes desirability, whether it's for a tenant or whether it's for the resale 20 years down the line when I want to get rid of it. If you look at historic house prices in other areas that tend to grow in value, generally the larger houses become the more desirable ones, the ones that really benefit from capital growth.
Yeah.
Obviously, with prices going up, the whole area will benefit from that, but generally the larger ones tend to feel that the most. So that's why we like to sort of source those sorts of houses as much as possible, and that's what I'm focusing on as well.
Yeah, which I really agree with and second what Dan said there. And I've just spent a week in Yorkshire recently and other parts of the north as well, which I love all areas that I go to, right? But some of these areas have got incredibly small houses, 1 beds, 2 beds that are like 40, 50 square meters. And whilst they'll still make a good investment, they'll still rent out, people still be able to make money off of them, I just don't see either A, the longevity of the price going up, like you mentioned, but also B, I think you're more likely to have tenant turnaround because people can't grow into them as family homes. And whilst you might get the occasional person, which is the exception to the rule, and they want to live on their own and they might stay there 20 years.
Yep.
I think just talking generically, what we love about these houses and what we go for and why we try to find properties of a certain price range is because A, we know what really works in terms of like bread and butter, buy, refurbish, refinance. But B, we're always trying to think about longevity, because obviously in property, there are 2 main ways to make money. It's cash flow. So we want to find something, we want to find an asset which is going to make good monthly cash flow. But actually where wealth is really built in property, which is something I've realised over the last 5, 6, almost 7 years of being in property, which is scary to think. Or being in property investing, obviously I've been an estate agent before that. But I've really noticed in my portfolio, actually the leaps forward that I've made in recent years are by owning and by those properties going up in value, and perhaps me doing like a second refinance and being able to tap into some of that growth. So
yeah, no, I think it's very true. I mean, think about the tenant profile that I've just put in my recent project. It's a 3-bed house like this, but it's actually 2 young professionals who's taken it. They work from home, so he wanted a home office and she wanted to have a walk-in wardrobe. So that's what the box room's been used for. They make good money. So actually the house, although it's suitable for a family, they've got good jobs, they've got good income, so they've taken the house and they're using the rooms and the space for what they want. So it could suit families, but it can also suit young professionals. So you've got both options with that.
Yeah, which is ultimately what you want. You just want an asset which gives you options as opposed to just one tenant profile.
Yeah.
So upstairs with Dan, we were just talking about why price point is really important for longevity of owning a property, but also in terms of the type of property is really important for tenant profile as well. You've got some points to add on that, I think.
Yeah, just so what we were talking about on the drive up, not only do you have the type of properties that attract the right type of tenant, again, ideally potentially, well, you're working professionally, but young families, also the area. So this top property is particularly near shops, restaurants, is actually a local primary school nearby, which again, for locals is again a key factor for young families, and again, as that family gets older. But what's more important is my opinion, if you secure a property with a young family, you'll have a higher chance of longevity with that tenant. Because what you want to avoid, which I've had in one of my properties recently, is turnover of tenants, because then you can have a void period. So for example, if you've got a £700 rent and now the tenant's leaving and you've got a month or two to replace that tenant with a new tenant, you're then missing out on £1,400 of rent. So the fact that if you can have, again, a gold dust where you have one tenant in for a long period of time, something that's not shown in the numbers of the deal is actually hitting those numbers without having not only, again, the right working profile tenant where you're getting your rent paid, more or less importantly, but also having a low turnover of the individual tenants over that long period.
So true, so true. And as we know right now, with a lot of the changes happening within buy-to-let, with the Renters' Rights Bill, tenant profile is more important than ever. So then therefore finding the right property to attract the right tenant, e.g. a working couple, working professionals, or a young family that can then grow into a property, I think is probably more important than ever as well.
100%. And just something quite comical on my experience with my own property recently, every month they would miss the rent by like 3 or 4 or 5 days. So I basically get a notification for a letting agent, again, bit of stress, oh no, what's going to happen, is this the fall of when they don't pay? I then basically investigate it with the letting agent and it finds out they're paying them up on a credit card. So suddenly for me that's a red flag, and now we're pushing for them to go pay it on a standing order. But why is that? Possibly it's because they're not financially in a good enough position to actually make those payments.
Yes.
So again, that doubles down the next time I replace that tenant, right, let's really make sure we find someone that is actually secure financially.
Yep.
Because it adds to your stress as being a landlord, doesn't it?
Yeah. And we're all going to face this at some point. So it's why it's important to try and preempt it. So again, that's why we're really doubling down on the quality of the house that we're trying to source for people.
100%.
So, cool. So do we also, whilst we're at it, and whilst people are watching this video, I think it'd be a really important point to mention about problem solving with buy, refurbish, refinance deals.
Yeah, 100%. So I think with a good BRR deal, you're doing the two elements of adding value, aren't you? So you're buying below market value, but also then we're trying to add value. And I think it's very important to look at the different ways how you can add value. So sometimes when talking to clients, it seems to be as simple as it can only just be a refurb. But adding value is just problem solving an element of pain for that landlord that's looking to shift his property. So that could be a big refurb. It could be something where it's that refurb technically is just one big element, which could just be a roof repair, which could be a more expensive ticket item, which they've again got the pain for you to problem solve.
Yep.
Could be elements of knotweed, could be having a tenant in it, which they each need to kick out. But it's just some element of pain. The bigger the pain, generally the bigger the opportunity to add more value. And I think some new investors miss that. They see it as the pain themselves, but you've got to get your investor hat on and go, right, the bigger the problem, great. Yeah, because now I can actually get a better deal.
It's such a good point, because so many people, like the nerves step in, and then that triggers that emotion of like, oh, this is very nerve-wracking, like I'm taking on this problem. But that in reality is what we're doing. We're problem solvers, okay? Sometimes the problem can be as simple as it's a refurb, like you said, but then sometimes it might not need as much of a refurb, but it might have something like Japanese knotweed. But these are all things in which we do the research on, whether we're buying them for ourselves or whether we're buying them for clients. We'll provide the solution, we do the homework around the solution, so then that's what makes the opportunity to buy it below market value, add the value, refinance higher.
100%. I think if you're viewing a property yourself, when you go around the property and if you see an incredible amount of damp, you don't want to panic and exit. You want to think, great, this is actually something I can actually now see paying to lean into in order to negotiate a lower price and create the deal. I say the only disadvantage is if you're doing it with low experience, is pricing up the solution correctly. So that's when sourcers can be great because they've got much experience of not only buying below market value with the plane, which potentially you could do, but actually making sure, for example, with that call recently, the guy spent 14 grand by quoting a refurb himself, and then went on and it actually turned into 40 grand over budget.
Yeah, I can't, that's got to be one of the more extreme
Not
ones.
a great one, yeah. So that example, again, you have the solution with a basically a BRR package source deal.
Yeah, with a team in place that can solve that problem.
100%.
So, good point.
Thank you.
Nice, so we've talked a lot about the internal refurb, and refurbs can massively vary. Listen, if a house needs new roof, new windows, new full rip out, whatever it is, we just factor that in, okay? We work out what it's going to be worth, and we work out the cost of making that property. We work out what it's going to be worth at the end, then we figure out what we need to spend on that property to get it up to scratch and make it worth that end value, and then we place our offer. But there are some attributes about houses which can make refurbs easier and quicker for clients, aren't there?
Yep.
What are the ones on this one, would you say?
Yeah, so this house came with good UPVC doors and windows. It's a massive cost saver when you're doing a full refurb. Also, the roof is all sound, so there's no flashing needed or actually like a replacement roof or anything like that. So the bare bones of it are solid, and it really means you can come in, obviously spend quite a bit of money doing the internal works, but not doing major things like that. And particularly in winter time, roofs can become problematic. So yeah, it's a solid one.
So with this one, where we're spending just over 36,500, or the client is with the builder, if it needed, all new windows, doors and roofs, you'd be looking at way, closer to 50,000.
That's
probably,
right. Yeah,
wouldn't
yeah,
you?
yeah.
So big cost saver there, which obviously we factor into when we're making offers. Now, the final thing for this house I want to mention is, well, clearly we're standing outside at the moment, is about a garden. Now, garden's like a regular question that we get. Should you have one? Is it better to have a small one, a big one? What are your thoughts? Yeah,
I think gardens are pretty important to most families, I would say. And you're looking for something that's low maintenance at the end of the day. This has obviously been left to grow for some time, but actually underneath you've got concrete tiles, and so with a bit of a clear out, this will be the perfect sort of rental spec garden that you really want for a house like this. Good size, get sun in the day, nice little view off the back, and the kids can come straight out of the kitchen whilst mum's cooking and and hang out.
Nice, yeah, can't complain today really with the blue skies. We've been very lucky.
Yeah.
And I think just to second that, just the size, in my opinion, for a rental is perfect because it's very much manageable,
Yeah.
isn't it? So, good stuff.